But it occurred to me that a lot of people don't know the full history, and it's important, I feel, to share that with you guys because it gives you kind of a sense of where we come from and a sense of where we're going. And if I'm going to lead you guys as a group, I want you guys to understand a little bit more about me and kind of where I'm coming from and where I'm going. So, first of all, you can go way back to my childhood. I come from an amazing family. I don't have photos of my family in here, but I just want to say that first of all. And certainly they've contributed greatly to who I am today. But if I look back upon my childhood, there are three themes which kind of stand out to me. First of all, I had a love of gadgets. I really, really liked gadgets when I was a kid. My love of gadgets turned into a love of video games. Played video games all the time. I was a little bit of a video game wacky wizard guy. And my love of video games turned into a love of computers. And man, I really love computers. In fact, I was telling some people at dinner last night, I was the only person, my mom would always make fun of me because I would actually sneak friends into the house as opposed to sneaking out of the house so we could have LAN parties. The second element of my childhood was I was socially awkward. I was very, very tall, first of all. Now, granted, Jesse's short.
That's Jesse?
But, that's Jesse. Jesse Merce. Oh, and by the way, Jesse Merce, co-founder of the company, and you're going to hear his name come up here a little bit later in the story. The third thing is I think I've always been an entrepreneur. I didn't really know it at the time, but God, I was into baseball cards. And here's the crazy thing. I took this photo last night. This is not a photo from my childhood. I actually had a lot more than that when I was in my childhood. But I was very into baseball cards. I was trading them. I was trying to, price guides and all that kind of stuff. So I think I actually had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. So now, what I really wanted to be when I grew up, I really wanted to be a sports star. That was like where I wanted to go. Okay. Unfortunately, I was never very good at sports, and I was much more a nerd than a sports star. Much more nerd than a sports star. So, in 10th grade, I hacked into our school's computer network, and I got into my principal's computer, and I downloaded every discipline report for every student in my entire school, 2nd through 12th grade. I thought this was awesome. I then proceeded to print everybody's complete discipline report out, and I showed up at school one day with all the discipline reports, and I went up to each student and I handed them their personal discipline file. This got back to the principal pretty quickly. Thankfully, I went to a really awesome high school. Actually, the same high school that Lincoln went to. Lincoln was a couple grades below me in high school, and at the same high school that Brian Keller went to, who you'll see in a minute. I went to a special high school, and the principal, he saw this, and he decided, after much contemplation, that instead of kicking me out of school or doing some other severe discipline activity, that instead he was going to form a computer security committee, and he was going to put me in charge of it. And I started the computer security task force at the school, and this was my punishment. And I got to select other students to be part of it, and our job was to make the network hacker-proof. Since this was kind of a big deal, the paper did a thing on the hacking and all that kind of stuff. And I couldn't find the original article, but what I found actually was a letter to the editor, which appeared 2 days after the article appeared. School forgets its teaching role. I was thunderstruck that the principal of Pineview School would ask students who disseminated confidential information to work on a code of conduct and security system for the school's computers. No matter how gifted these kids are, the school has no business rewarding them for such inexcusable behavior. Intellectual gifts are important to success, but a good portion of the real world puts an equally high premium on values, integrity, and judgment. Without real consequences imposed for this conduct, there's little chance of communicating the seriousness of this offense and the importance of proper behavior towards other people. As for the computer conduct code, try this. Don't touch it if it's not yours. Sincerely, Barbara Golder of Sarasota, Florida. Barbara, screw you! Through this experience of all this happening, I figured something out. I figured out that I could take those qualities from my childhood, the entrepreneurship, the love for computers, and the fact that I was a little bit of a nerd, and I could kind of create my own future with it. And so the summer before my senior year of high school, a buddy of mine, James, and me opened up a computer center, a computer kiosk in Gulfgate Mall in Sarasota, Florida. And this was our summer thing. While other kids were off taking summer vacations, we signed a mall lease at 16 years old and opened up a little kiosk in the mall. We're extremely excited about it. The truth of the matter was the store was an instant flop. It was a low traffic mall. No one can buy and bought our stuff, and we were about a month in, and of course, we had no business planning, so we'd literally taken the cumulative savings that both of us had, which I believe was about $2,000, and we signed this mall lease of which we were paying, I don't know, $800,000 a month. And so when the first month came and went, and we had sold like $200 worth of stuff the entire month, we quickly realized our dream's about to be crushed because one more rent payment and we're pretty much out of business. So we were actually pretty discouraged after about a month, and my dad was talking to me and my mom. They're trying to keep me encouraged. And then this happened. It's Sunday morning, July the 9th, 1995, that was the business section of the Sarasota Herald Tribune. This was when people used to still read the newspaper every day. There was no internet that people were going to for news. And I got into the store that day. We opened at noon on a Sunday, and I got in about 11:45 to open it. We literally had a line of like 8 people who were waiting there to talk to us and to buy things and whatever. The phone rung off the hook so much. We had so many people come to our kiosk that day. We completely sold out of inventory, and our phone was ringing off the hook so much we couldn't even service people coming up to the kiosk. I had to take the phone off the hook. People were scheduling tech calls. We were offering to set up people on the internet. That was, of course, a brand new thing at the time. We literally booked, for this one article, we turned our business from nothing into a business that did a few $100,000 of revenue during our senior year of high school. So that enabled us to move out of the kiosk and move it to an actual store in the mall. And the success allowed us to hire our first employee, Brian Keller. Brian, along with Jesse, who you saw earlier, and me, were the founders of this company, the original 3. So I get to college, and I move in my first day of summer B, and right across the hallway from me is this kind of goofy kid named Peter, who at the time kind of had flaming red hair, and he was thin.
He did not.
Things were different back then. What are you talking about? Peter and I became fast friends. We became instant friends, and we went to. This was 1996, and that was the year the Gators won their first football national championship, and Peter and I went together. So here we are. Well, I told you, red hair and thin, right? We are celebrating after the Gators' 1996 national championship win on Bourbon Street. So the spring of my freshman year, I joined a fraternity, Phi Sigma Kappa. There I am. Up here is Brian Schneider. Brian Schneider plugs into our story. Brian Schneider plugs into our story in a few minutes as well. But Peter literally crashed every single fraternity party we had. So I was in the fraternity for about a year, and in the spring of 1998, I started to do something entrepreneurial again, because I had this success with Computer Store in high school, but then I got to college, I didn't do anything for a year. So I felt that instead of doing a computer store, because I felt that would be difficult with my school schedule, I wanted to get into web design. Because I had learned some web design. In fact, we set up a few web pages for customers back at the Computer Store back in 1995, 1996. So I knew basic HTML, and I said, you know what I should do? I should start a little web design company. And so I went and talked to my friend Jesse and my friend Brian, and I said, let's start a company together, and they agreed, and because they both knew how to do basic HTML as well, and Spider web page creation was born. This was the birthplace of our company, 7 Fraternity Row. In my room in the fraternity house is where we set up the company, and I actually had a 1-800 number run into my room in the fraternity house, and I had all of the guys on my floor that if that phone rang, it was a different phone, if this phone rang and I'm at class, come into my room and answer it and say, Spider web page creation, this is Joe, and take a message from me. And it worked great, because clients thought we had like 30 employees. Because every time they called, we'd have a different person. Except, there were a couple of instances where the guys in fraternity decided it was appropriate to start drinking around 10 in the morning. So by about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, the quality of phone answering went down a little bit. In fact, there was one instance where someone answered the phone like, Joe's Love Shack, how many? And it was after that happened that I decided we needed to move out of the fraternity house and we needed to actually get a real office if we were going to be doing this. This is Spider web page creation, branding, not the best. By the way, Spider with a Y. These were pretty sweet. And our URL, not spiderweb.com, no, weblocale.com. I don't know. But that's what we did, because we thought we knew nothing at the time. So this was the very first trade show we ever went to. This was 1998. This is Brian Keller right here, and this is me, and that's my dad, who actually helped out by paying for us to go to the trade show since we had no money. And then this is another friend who wasn't part of the company, but I just invited him up to help with the trade show. And actually, the sign in the background says, "Design your web page in 5 minutes." That's what we were advertising. We do it in 5 minutes, right there. I can't. It is scary. It is scary today. So, while I had this business going on, at the same point in time, my original intention to come to college was not to get into web design. I actually really wanted to get into TV news. And Peter also really wanted to get into TV news. So Peter got into the news program a semester before I did, and the business was going, and I was really contemplating dropping out. I was really contemplating switching to computer science. I thought I was going to switch to computer science, and I was going to become a web programmer, and I figured that's what I need to do, because this is, I've got this thing going, so I really need to know how to program, because I didn't know how to program, I just know how to do basic HTML. And Peter talked me out of it. Peter said, no. Don't do that. Follow your dream. Your dream's to be a newscaster. Follow your dream. This is, don't do this. Be the newscaster. And I said, okay, we're gonna be the newscaster. So I was the newscaster, and and like Peter, and I wish I had some photos of Peter. I unfortunately don't. But Peter did this as well. But we did the campus news. We kind of rose through the ranks and did a bunch of campus news stuff and News 5. It was great. So I was the main anchor for a semester. There's my news team, and you may actually, most of you probably know, the girl standing to my left. That would be Erin Andrews from ESPN and Fame, Dancing with the Stars, ABC, all that type of thing. Brian, Jesse, and I were all full-time students, and I was doing the news thing, and we were having a tough time keeping up with everything. So in 1999, we were not able to keep up with our customer work, and the three of us got together and we said, okay, this either has to be a full-time venture that we have to be dedicated to, and that means we got to reduce school hours or not graduate or whatever, or we can't do it anymore because we're not servicing clients, we're getting too many calls, it's not working. And the two of them, after some contemplation, Brian decided at that point to drop out of the business. He was younger than us. He was 2 years behind us, so I think he was only a freshman. So he's like, I can't. I got to do school. Totally understandable. He might have been a sophomore. Jesse decided not to be an owner of the business, but he wanted to keep working for us. But Jesse's aspirations was he wanted to go on to law school. So he's like, yeah, it's been great, and I'll continue to work as part of the company, but I don't want to be an owner. I want to go on to law school. So at that point in time, Jesse stuck with me. We changed the name to Silverscape. We just thought we needed a new name and thought Silverscape sounded good, so we came up with the name Silverscape. The reason why we came up with Silverscape was because we had a bunch of different names, and every single domain name we could possibly find was taken. So then we literally we had all these names like Silver Technologies and, I don't know, something Scape. And we drew a line down the middle of the paper, and we took silver from one and scape from another and pieced them together, and that's how we got Silverscape. We did awesome marketing. You see our branding got much better. The answers are out there. I don't know what the hell that means. And this was pre-Peter. Jesse and I hired Peter as our first employee. Peter was our first salesperson ever. He came on board for $6.50 per hour, and he joined in 1999 doing sales for our company. And Peter was very successful. Of course, back then we were only charging like $300 to do a full website for somebody. So it was easier to talk somebody into it than today. But nonetheless, Peter's talent brought in several accounts, and so the following year we decided to incorporate, and I asked Peter to be part of the company. Peter very much took advantage of that opportunity. This was our first company holiday party. This was 2000. And December 2000, you can see here we got Lincoln here, Peter Brownstein there, of course Peter and me, and there's Jesse. We got a nice little write-up in the local paper. This is the first trade show we ever did. This Peter and me, I think that was 2001 as well. So things were happening. The very first business trip that we ever took, which was in 2001, was Peter and I traveled to Arkansas. And so on the way back, it was one of those situations where the airport, the airline was overloaded and they asked people for volunteers, and if you give up your seats, then you get a free ticket. And of course for Peter, we're like, oh, free ticket, hell yeah. So we gave up our seats and we got free tickets, and we decided that as a result of our first business trip that we were gonna go on a fun trip, and Peter and I both decided, we said, out of all the places in the whole US, because we used this ticket to go anywhere in the US, where do the two of us want to go?
Iowa.
Where do we want to go? To Iowa. So we wanted to visit, pay homage to our favorite movie, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come, and we went.
Great choice.
Thank you. Thank you. So that is the result of our first business trip. Here, this is late 2001. Things are happening. Lincoln's still looking good there.
Is that Lincoln on the left?
Yeah. This Lincoln right here. Yeah, look a little different back then. A little less refined. looks a little more refined these days. This is the awesome web design work we were doing at the time. That was one of our. That was awesome as well. That was an award-winning design right there. Very nice. 2002 comes around and we decide we need to change our name. We decide this for a few reasons. First of all, I wasn't crazy about the name Silverscape Technologies. First of all, the .com bust had all happened, so people were very, very distasteful, very distrustful of tech companies in general, and Silverscape Technologies, A, sounded real .com-y, and B, had the word technologies in it. Second of all, Don had just come on board, and Don had a very traditional print and very traditional media background, and we said, we don't need to be just technology, we can help clients with all kinds of media, so we need to get away from the word technology and go to something much more traditional. And the third reason was because at the time, our website URL was silverscape.net. Back then, .nets were relatively common URLs. No one actually uses them today. But back then, a lot of companies had .net. Well, we had .net. Well, at the time we got Silverscape.net, Silverscape.com was nothing. It wasn't online. But someone had it registered. We thought it was a jewelry store. Well, a year later, a website goes online, and it's a web design company called Silverscape at Silverscape.com, and we're at Silverscape.net. And it started to cause a lot of confusion because we'd have clients send emails accidentally, and they put Silverscape.com, and it would be our emails about project correspondence would be going to that. And so it was a situation, and we were thinking about suing them for trademark infringement because we had the name first, and then we decided it's going to cost us 50 grand, and we need to get away from this name anyway, so let's change our name. So we went through a whole brainstorming process of what to come up for our company name. And these were some of the concepts. We had Lighthouse Media, Supreme Media with a SY, I don't know where that one came from, Newmagine. Some bad concepts here, but we had a lot of concepts nonetheless. And so we actually opened this up to an entire company vote. We let every person who was part of the company at that time vote on what our name should be. And Kelly voted, and a lot of our Evan and Carolyn voted. Everyone who was around at the time had a vote. And we settled on 352 Media Group, and then it was a matter of picking our company logo. Obviously, the one in the lower right won. Again, by a company vote, although the colors obviously changed since the time we came up with that. So we got our logo, we got our new company name. We said, great, we got it all figured out. We change our name. We do a big kickoff party to change our name. We do this event with the Chamber of Commerce. There you go.
Look, is that your first T-shirt? No, yeah.
That might be PBR's first T-shirt creation.
I know. It's on the couch in the office now.
And things are going good. You guys saw the last couple of staff photos, and this was 2003. So you guys saw we went through a period of change name. We went through a period of pretty rapid growth. And I want to point some people out in this photo. First of all, Peter, my awesome business partner since 2000, huge part of our company culture, and a huge part of the reason why Peter keeps things fun and reminds me every day that you need to bring some levity and some fun into the workplace to have a winning culture, and he does a wonderful job at that. Carolyn started with us most of you probably don't know this. Carolyn started with us as a web design intern.
Doesn't he?
He hasn't changed a bit in 7 years. That's still the only expression he has. But Don has been, you know, the energy that Don's brought to our sales team and the results have been wonderful, and he's a huge reason why we're all here today, is what he's been able to bring in. Mr. Lincoln, looking good. There he is again. You know, incredible designer, just amazing, amazing, amazing work. Peter Brownstein and Evan, tucked away back there. You know, obviously hugely instrumental in our growth. Peter, one of our first programmers, and really led the way. And Evan as well. Evan joined us as a programmer, and then Evan became head of our programming team for a while. Before he moved over into the business analyst role and now a sales management role with us. There's Kelly. There's Kelly. Kelly started with us in we had a small business division at the time that we called Express, and Kelly was such a happy part of that division. Tim? You know, Tim's been great. He's been, you know, a great part of all of it too, and has, you know, created our current website and has been such an awesome designer, done so much for us over the years. Wish you were here today. There's Megan. Megan was the project manager of our Express small business team at the time that Kelly was on, as well as Paul Traylor. There's Brian Schneider. I mentioned Brian's name before. He was the guy in my fraternity. We'll talk about him in a second. 2004, we get Microsoft. And the way that we got Microsoft was this. Brian Schneider, who was the guy in my fraternity, when he left the fraternity, he went and got a job with Microsoft in their college recruiting division. Brian Keller graduates 2 years later. I call up Brian Schneider and I say, hey dude, you should really take a look at this Brian Keller kid. He worked for me in high school. He started the company with me in college. He's a great kid. You should really interview him for a job at Microsoft. Brian Schneider interviews Brian Keller. Brian Keller gets hired at Microsoft. Brian Keller goes off to work for Microsoft. Brian Keller then, for the next few years, looks for an opportunity to repay me by trying to bring our company in the fold and give us some work from Microsoft. And I greatly appreciate him trying to do that. But it was tough because Microsoft is extremely selective about the vendors they work with, and they won't allow just any vendor to come on and be, and, you know, there has to be a compelling need. So he tried this several times, it didn't work, but then one day he called me on my cell phone. He goes, Jeff, I got an opportunity for you. This is your door, this is your foot in the door with Microsoft, if you can pull this off. And I instantly said, we'll do it. I didn't even know what the opportunity was, but I just said, we'll do it. And he said, here's the deal. He goes, we've got this conference coming up called Dev Days, and I'm in charge of managing part of this conference. He goes, there's a DVD disc that has to be produced for Dev Days, and the conference was only a couple of weeks away. I mean, it was a real short time period. And I don't know what happened. He had some other vendor lined up to do it. Something happened with the other vendor. The DVD wasn't able to get done. He got notified of this, and then it was this tight turn. And so Brian called some of the other vendors, and no one could do it. I mean, everyone was like, whoa, you know, it's like, I don't know, it was 3 weeks till the conference. It was a very, very short time period until this conference. I said, we'll do it. We took on the project. We had people working round the clock. Tim Pratt led this project, and he worked so hard. He worked in the evenings, worked in the weekends. He worked so hard to pull this off. And here's the DVD. This is it, Microsoft Dev Days 2004. This got to the conference the day before, 42,000 copies of it or whatever it was. It worked great, it looked great, it was a big home run, and it was our foot in the door with Microsoft. Since that point in time in 2004, Microsoft's been our #1 client for 6 of the last 7 years. So it's pretty awesome that it all started from that one opportunity. And it's also pretty awesome to know, and I really felt this back at the time, and I feel this today, that when we had an opportunity like that, and our employees stepped up, people said, oh, we got to take this chance and we got to do this. That's awesome. I mean, this couldn't have happened without just a ton of hard work from a ton of people. And our company is where we are today because of people like Tim and others who have worked so hard on projects like this throughout the years. Things were going really well, and we decided, all right, it's time to expand. So we decided we're going to go to Atlanta. Brian Schneider, guy from my fraternity, guy who hired Brian Keller, leaves Microsoft, and I make him a job offer, and he joins 352 Media Group. And Brian Schneider's role with 352 Media Group was to pave our way into Atlanta. So he goes to Atlanta. We open up our first office in Atlanta in 2004. Very meager little office, but it was some humble beginnings. And Brian led the way there. Then 2005 happened. And for those of you who don't know how to read financial charts, let me tell you something. Red is bad, green is good. So when the red bars are higher than the green bars, that's bad. When the red bars are higher than the green bars for 9 straight months, that's really bad. And that's what happened in 2005. We lost, I think, $600,000 in 2005. I took out 11 credit cards and maxed all 11 credit cards out just to keep ingesting money into the company so that we could keep the company going. Because I believed that we could overcome this, but at the same time we didn't have the capital to do it, and banks weren't loaning us, and that type of thing. It was a horrible year. And the reason why, this was all self-created. It wasn't a matter of not having enough business, it wasn't a matter of not getting enough sales. It was that we had no tracking mechanisms in place for being able to watch how much time we were spending on projects. And we had some projects that were just going so far, spiraling out of control. Back then everything was fixed fee, nothing was time and materials. And we had all of these projects that were spiraling out of control. We didn't have good proposals at the time, they were very loose. We didn't have good statements of work, they were very loose. And projects were spiraling out of control. And that's what happened as a result of that. So we took this time to retool. We barely hung on. And to show you, and God, this is, wow. It was so bad that for 6 pay periods in a row, for 12 weeks, Don, me, Peter, and Carolyn did not take a single paycheck for 12 weeks in a row. And it was all of us were in such, I mean, I had 11 credit cards that I was trying to pay on. Don was in debt, I think Peter was in debt, Carolyn was in debt. It was so hard on the 4 of us. Carolyn actually had to take a job at TJ Maxx. She worked in the evenings at 3. We didn't tell people at the company about this at the time because we didn't want people to panic. We didn't want the word to get out that Carolyn was working at TJ Maxx just so that she could pay her bills because she wasn't able to take a paycheck for 12 weeks. But that's what happened. And the fact that, and Brian Schneider too, who was part of it at the time, went through the same level of pain. And I mean, it's so telling how dedicated Carolyn and Don and Peter are to the mission that they were willing to do that. They were willing to sacrifice. They were willing to do whatever it took and work at TJ Maxx and just do anything to try to keep the company going and to not let the company fail. And God, I owe you guys like a million thank yous for that, because that's just such an amazing thing that you guys did, and that's awesome. Thank you so much. So we got this fixed. We got time tracking and billable hours and all that kind of stuff, which maybe we went a little too extreme and made them a little too harsh, and today we're making them a little bit better. But we got this fixed as a result of that. And things got better again. We went on, we started winning Addy Awards. Things were good, times were good. And then we were starting to build back again, and 2007 was a good year for us, and we were getting momentum, and 2008 was a good year for us. And then October of 2008, the economy fell out. And oh boy, was that painful. And we lost a bunch of our clients. All of a sudden, people got projects like, our biggest project in the company at the time was a project called Bizime, and we literally got a phone call one day. We had 4 programmers and a designer working full-time on nothing but that project, and the guy calls one day and he goes, I lost my funding, my investors all pulled out because of the economy crash, I need you to stop everything you're doing today, I have no more money to pay you. And we're like, oh my God, scrambling, figuring out what to do. This happened with a couple of other clients. Microsoft froze projects that we had in development. They weren't awarding us additional projects. Things got bad real quick. Frankly, this all happened in October 2008. I wish we had reacted quicker. It took us until the end of January 2009 to realize, oh crap, things are not getting better. This is a major problem. And we had to cut some people. We had to lay some people off, and we had to ask people to take pay cuts, and we had to do what we had to do to make our company survive. Thankfully, we had to do a lot less than what a lot of other companies have done, and we only had to do it that one time, during that one time period, but we had to do it. And I cannot, one of the hardest moments in my life was that day when I had to walk into the Atlanta office and let several employees go. And God, let me tell you something. Let me tell you about how hard this was, not only for me professionally, but for me personally. This is my friend Jesse. You know Jesse, little kid, started the company with me, went on to law school. I've mentioned him a few times in the presentation. This is his wedding. Jesse gets married to Carrie. Carrie is a beautiful, beautiful bride, so happy for him. I'm Jesse's best man. Carrie's sister, Lisa, is her maid of honor. It's at this wedding that Lisa and I start to talk, and I realize Lisa's a brilliant, smart girl, and a couple months later I offer her a job with the company. She lives in Tennessee, and she relocates to Atlanta to come work for me. as a project manager. And a few months later, the economy crashes. And a few months later, I'm in Atlanta, and I have to let Lisa go. And it was one of the worst days of my life. Probably was the worst day of my life. I mean, that was so painful that morning, walking into that office. That was it. There were times, honestly, when I thought about quitting. I mean, it was tough. I felt like such a fucking bastard, just. So disappointed. I literally thought about quitting at times. It was just like, I didn't even know it was worth it. I just felt so much stress and just, but I made myself a promise during 2009 when things were just bad. And I said, I didn't realize how good things were the couple of years prior until things got bad. And I said that when things get good again, we're going to take advantage of the opportunity. We're not going to miss the opportunity. The only way that I can repay this and that we can get better as a company is if we just get better. We set ourselves up, we take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to us, and we don't let these ever happen again. So we tried to do that. We've taken advantage. The good news is that during the last couple of years when the economy was bad and things were tough, we as a company, we did not sit still. We made progress in a lot of areas. Our core framework, the admins, the controls which we plug into our websites, they got way better, way better. We made such progress, we took advantage of some of the light work that we had, we took advantage of some of the downtime. We started Core Web Solutions this year. You know, we saw an opportunity to not isolate ourselves from the small business market, but to try to open ourselves up to get more business. I mentioned we brought in this girl.
You should have put that slide before.
We brought in consultants. We brought in Greta. She's done a marvelous job with her sales team and has helped make over our sales approach and really position us in a lot better position as far as that goes.
That photo.
And we brought in a market research company that's helped giving us the messaging that we have in front of us today that I'll even talk a little bit more about later. We opened up our Tampa office obviously recently. That was exciting. And we made great progress in Tampa. And just in every position across the board, this was obviously our photo from last year, but we've upgraded our talent. We've done a lot of really good things. And that's the history. That's where we've been. But where we're going is to much greater heights. Where we're going, the opportunity is here. The opportunity is in front of us, and we're not going to miss this opportunity. We're going to take full advantage of this opportunity. We're going to ride this wave up, and this wave is going to take us from being a good company to a great company. We have such an incredible opportunity in front of us, and it's not just one client, it's not just one project, although there are clients and projects that give us this opportunity, but the timing is so right. And there's nothing that is holding us back right now from being the 45-person company that we are today, to turning into a 100-person company, to turning into a 200-person, 500,000-person company, from having a presence not just in Atlanta, and not just Tampa, and not just Gainesville, but from having a presence all over the US. There's nothing that's stopping us from that. And we have every opportunity to do it. We just need to focus on some core things. And the truth is, I've thought about this a lot, it's not that hard. There's just a couple of things that we have to focus on as a company, and if we can get all of our collective focus and all of our collective energy in a few areas, we're going to be great. And that's what today's about, is getting our focus and our energy in the right place, talking about what's important, and talking about the plan that's going to get us to those great heights that I want to go to.